We're making something much more recognisable to us as a scooter. This is a 125 LD model, actually made under licence in France. The difference, of course, between the great rivals, Vespa and Lambretta, the Vespa had a monocoque frame. The pressed steel panels formed the frame. The Lambretta had a steel tube underneath all of that panel work, much more like a motorcycle. 25 years and 4 million scooters later, and this, the Cometa from the early 70s, is the last of the Lambrettas, and ironically, it looks a lot like that original A model from 1947. But like I said, this was the last Lambretta. They were seen off, quite literally, by British Leyland. They bought them out and switched production to Minis. But we've come to the only place in the world where they've got one of everything that Lambretta ever made. So where do you think we are then? Naples? Rome? Milan? Nah, we're in Weston Super Mare. And it's quite fitting that this shrine to all things Lambretta should be situated in an old church. But it's not just scooters, there's every conceivable form of Lambretta memorabilia here as well. They restore and rebuild Lambrettas as you'd expect, and the owner of the place is completely mad about them.
It started basically because I got into scooter racing in the early days, and they advertised for scooters and I was offered old ones, and from then it sort of took my interest and I carried on. The problem was it was storing all these. I mean, I had garages all over Weston that I rented. All these posters were underneath the bed at home. I had calendars and everything, and I just realised one day that you just couldn't keep all this stuff. You couldn't see it every time anyone wanted to see something. I mean, it meant dismantling, you know, half a garage full of parts to find a part. So I decided that, you know, I needed something bigger.
So inevitably, Nigel's collection became a museum. But the scooters here aren't just static exhibits. If you want to buy one, then they'll sell it to you. They want to keep the Lambretta name alive. I was brought up on Lambrettas, I love them, so I thought it was time for a trip down memory lane. Of course, I picked the fastest and most powerful Lambretta they ever made, the GP200. I used to have one of these myself, although mine was super tuned. We used a Bultaco piston from an off-road bike and a huge Delota carburettor off a big Ducati or something like that, and an insane expansion chamber that was so loud that my father forbade me to actually start my Lambretta within a quarter of a mile of our house. It seems insane that what was built as cheap transport to get Italians to work would be taken up by British youth and then ridden the length and breadth of the country. I used to set out from Bury for places like Moorgate or Clacton or Brighton or even Weston Super Mare, the Isle of Wight. We used to ride down from Bury to the Isle of Wight on a Lambretta. I used to ride down on a Lambretta 200, and get this, we used to go across to Hull to meet our mates first before setting out down the A1. It just shows you the folly of youth, I think, what's that called? Riding this immaculate example of Lambretta's finest now, I find it hard to believe just how besotted I was with mine all those years ago. It doesn't go very well, it doesn't stop very well, and as for going round corners, well, it'd be safer to get off and push. I'd still love to own one though. Wouldn't ride it, I'd stick it in the living room and look at it. This is a special place. Just about unique, in fact. I can't think of another museum that houses a complete collection of everything ever made by a major manufacturer that is in private hands. But to me, more interesting than all of the machinery is the memorabilia, the posters, the signs, all that sort of stuff. Because from 1947 right up to 1972, Lambretta had a message, a simple message: forward, forward into a bright new tomorrow. And today, the Lambretta thing is all about looking back. Ironic, really. But back then, tomorrow was universally agreed to be a good thing. Whereas today, well, we're not so sure, are we?